We, Eugene Zamyatin, record 5. The square, the rulers of the world, an agreeable and useful function. Again with you, my unknown reader, I talk to you as though you were, let us say, my old comrade, R13, the poet with the lips of a Negro. Well, everyone knows him. Yet you are somewhere on the moon, or on Venus, or on Mars. Who knows you? Where and who are you? Imagine a square, a living, beautiful square. Imagine that this square is obliged to tell you about itself, about its life. You realize that this square would hardly think it necessary to mention the fact that all its four angles are equal. It knows this too well that this is such an ordinary, obvious thing. I am in exactly the same square position. Take the pink checks, for instance, and all that goes with them. For me, they are as natural as the equality of the four angles of the square, but for you, they are perhaps more mysterious and hard to understand than the binomial of Newton. Let me explain. An ancient sage once said a clever thing, accidentally, beyond doubt. He said, love and hunger rule the world. Consequently, to dominate the world, man had to win a victory over hunger after paying a very high price. I prefer the great 200 I refer to the great 200 Years' War, the war between the city and the land, probably on account of religious prejudices. The primitive peasants stubbornly held on to their bread. Bread. This word came down to us for use only as a poetic form, for the chemical constitution of this substance is unknown to us. In the 35th year before the foundation of the United States, our contemporary petroleum food was invented. True, only about 2/10 of the population of the globe did not die out. But how beautifully shining the face of the earth became when it was cleared of its impurities. According to the zero point 0.2 which survived, have enjoyed the greatest happiness in the bosom of the United States. But is it not clear that supreme bliss and envy are only the numerator and the denominator respectively, and of the same fraction, happiness? What sense would the innumerable sacrifices of the 200 years' war have for us if a reason were left in our life for jealousy? Yet such a reason persisted because there remained button like noses and classical noses. See for reference our conversation during the promenade. For there were some whose love was sought by everyone, and others whose love was sought by no one. Naturally, having conquered hunger, that is, algebraically speaking, having achieved the total of bodily welfare, the United States directed its attack against the second ruler of the world, against love. At last this element was also conquered, that is, organized and put into a mathematical formula. It is already 300 years since our great historic lex sexualis was promulgated. A number may obtain a license to use any other number as a sexual product. The rest is only a matter of technique. You are carefully examined in the laboratory of the sexual department where they find the content of the sexual hormones in your blood, and they make out for you accordingly a table of sexual days. Then you fill an application to enjoy the services of number so and so or numbers so and so. You get for that purpose a checkbook, pink. That is all. It is clear that under such circumstances there is no more reason for envy or jealousy. The denominator of the fraction of happiness is reduced to zero, and the whole fraction is thus converted into a magnificent infiniteness. The thing which was for the ancients the source of innumerable stupid tragedies has been converted in our time into an harmonious, agreeable, and useful function of the organism, a function like sleep, like physical labor, the taking of food, digestion, etc., etc. Hence, you see how the great power of logic purifies everything it happens to touch. Oh, if only you unknown readers can conceive this divine power, if you will only learn to follow it to the end. It is very strange. While I was writing today of the loftiest summit of human history, all the while I breathed the purest mountain air of thought, but within me it was and remains cloudy, cobwebby, and there is a kind of cross-like four-pawed X. Or perhaps it is my paws, and I feel like that only because they are always before my eyes, my hairy paws. I don't like to talk about them. I dislike them. They are a trace of a primitive epoch. Is it possible that there is in me I wanted to strike out all this because it trespasses on the limits of my synopsis. But then I decided, no, I shall not. Let this diary give the curve of the most imperceptible vibrations of my brain, like a precise seismograph, for at times such vibrations serve as forewarnings. Certainly, this is absurd. This certainly should be stricken out. We have conquered all the elements. Catastrophes are not possible anymore. Now everything is clear to me. The peculiar feeling inside is a result of that very same square situation of which I spoke in the beginning. There is no X in me. There can be none. I am simply afraid lest some X will be left in you, my unknown readers. I believe you will understand that it is harder for me to write than it ever was for any author throughout human history. Some of them wrote for contemporaries, some for the future generations, but none of them ever wrote for their ancestors or beings like their primitive, distant ancestors. Record 6, an accident. The curse, it's clear, 24 hours. I must repeat, I made it my duty to write concealing nothing. Therefore, I must point out now that, sad as it may be, the process of hardening and crystallization of life has evidently not been completed even here in our state. A few steps remain to be made before we reach the ideal. The ideal, it's clear, is to be found where nothing happens. But here I will give you an example in the state paper. I read that in 2 days the holiday of justice will be celebrated on the Plaza of the Cube. This means that again some number has impeded the smooth run of the great state machine. Again, something that was not foreseen or forecalculated happened. Besides, something happened to me. True, it occurred during the personal hour, that is, during the time specifically assigned to unforeseen circumstances, yet at about 16, to be exact 10 minutes to 16, I was at home. Suddenly the telephone, D503, a woman's voice. Yes. Are you free? Yes. It is I. I 330. I shall run over to you immediately. We shall go together to the ancient house. Agreed. I 330. This I irritates me, repels me. She almost frightens me. But just because of that, I answered, yes. In 5 minutes we were in an arrow blue sky of May. The sun, the light sun in the golden arrow buzzed behind us without catching up and without lagging behind. Ahead of us, a white cataract of a cloud, yes, a white cataract of a cloud, nonsensically fluffy like the cheeks of an ancient cupid. That cloud was disturbing. The front window was open, it was windy, lips were dry. Aghast one's will one pass the tongue. Against one's will, one passed the tongue constantly over them and thought about lips. Already we saw in the distance the hazy green spots on the other side of the wall, then a slight involuntary sinking of the heart down, 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 as if from a mountain, a steep mountain, and we were at the ancient house. That strange, delicate, blind establishment is covered all around with a glass shell. Otherwise, it would undoubtedly have fallen to pieces long ago. At the glass house, we found an old woman, all wrinkles, especially her mouth, which was all made up of folds and plaits. Her lips had disappeared. Having folded inward, her mouth seemed grown together. It seemed incredible that she should be able to talk, and yet she did. Well, dear, come again to see my little house? Her wrinkled, her wrinkles shone. That is, her wrinkles diverged like rays, which created the impression of shining. Yes, grandmother, answered I-330. The wrinkles continued to shine. And the sun, eh? You see it? You rogue, you? I know, it's all right. Go all by yourselves. I shall remain here in the sunshine. Hmm. Apparently, my companion was a frequent guest here. Something disturbed me, probably that unpleasant optical impression, the cloud on the smooth blue surface of the sky. While we were ascending the wide, dark stairs, I-330 said, I love her, that old woman. Why? I don't know. Perhaps for her mouth, or perhaps for nothing. Just so. I shrugged my shoulders. She continued walking upstairs with a faint smile, or perhaps without a smile at all. I felt very guilty. It is clear that there must not be love just so, but love because of. For all elements of nature should be. It's clear, I began, but I stopped at that word and cast a furtive look at I-330. Did she notice it or not? She looked somewhere down. Her eyes were closed like curtains. It struck me suddenly. Evening about 22, you walk on the avenue, and among the brightly lighted, transparent cubic cells are dark spaces, lowered curtains, and there behind the curtains, what has she behind her curtains? Why did she phone me today? Why did she bring me here in all this? She opened a heavy, squeaking, opaque door, and we found ourselves in a somber, disorderly space. They call it an apartment. The same strange royal music instrument and a wild, unorganized, crazy loudness of colors and forms like their ancient music, a white plane above, dark blue walls, red, green, orange bindings of ancient books, yellow bronze candelabras, a statue of Buddha, furniture with lines distorted by epilepsy, impossible to reduce to any clear equation. I could hardly bear that chaos, but my companion apparently possessed a stronger constitution. This is my most beloved, she suddenly called herself, again a smile, white and white, sharp teeth. To be more exact, the most nonsensical of all apartments, or to be most exact, of all the states, thousands of microscopic states fighting eternal wars pitiless like. Oh, yes, it's clear, said I 330 with apparent sincerity. We passed through a room where we found a few small children's beds. Children in those days were also private property. Then more rooms, glimmering mirrors, somber closets, unbearably loud colored divans, an enormous fireplace, a large mahogany bed. Our contemporary, beautiful, transparent, eternal glass was represented here only by pitiful, delicate, tiny squares of windows. And to think, here there was love, just so. They burned and tortured themselves. Again, the curtain of the eye was lowered. What a stupid, uneconomical spending of human energy. Am I right? Am I not right? She spoke as though reading my thoughts, but in her smile there remained always the irritating X. There, behind the curtains, something was going on. I don't know what, but something that made me lose my patience. I wanted to quarrel with her, to scream at her. Exactly, to scream. But I had to agree. It was impossible not to agree. We stopped in front of a mirror. At that moment, I saw only her eyes. An idea came to me. Human beings are built as nonsensically as these stupid apartments. Human heads are opaque, and there are only two very small windows that lead inside. The eyes. She seemed to have guessed my thought. She turned around. Well, here they are, my eyes. Well, this suddenly, then silence. There were in front of me two gloomy dark windows, and behind them inside such strange hidden light. I saw there only fire burning like a peculiar fireplace, and unknown figures resembling. All this was certainly very natural. I saw in her eyes the reflection of my own face, but my feelings were unnatural and not like me. Evidently, the depressing influence of the surroundings was beginning to tell on me. I felt definitely fear. I felt as if I were trapped and caged in a strange cage. I felt that I was caught in the wild hurricane of ancient life. Do you know, said I 330, step out for a moment into the next room. Her voice came from there, from inside, from behind the dark window eyes where the fireplace was blazing. I went out, sat down. From a shelf on the wall there looked straight into my face, somewhat smiling, a snub-nosed, asymmetrical physiognomy of one of the ancient poets. I think it was Pushkin. Why do I sit here enduring this smile with such resignation? And what is this all about? Why am I here? And why all these strange sensations? This irritating, repellent female, this strange game. The door of the closet slammed. There was the rustle of silk. I felt it difficult to restrain myself from getting up and I don't remember exactly. Probably I wanted to tell her a number of disagreeable things, but she had already appeared. She was dressed in a short, bright yellowish dress, black hat, black stockings. The dress was of light silk. I saw clearly very long black stockings above the knees, an uncovered neck, and the shadow between. It's clear that you want to seem original, but is it possible that you, it is clear, interrupted I 330, that to be original means to stand out among others. Consequently, to be original means to violate the law of equality, what was called in the language of the ancients to be common is with us only the fulfilling of one's duty for. Yes, yes, exactly, I interrupted impatiently, and there is no use, no use. She came near the bust of the snub nosed poet, lowered the curtains on the wild fire of her eyes, and said, this time I think she was really in earnest. Or perhaps she was merely wanted, or perhaps she merely wanted to soften my impatience with her. But she said a very reasonable thing. Don't you think it surprising that once people could stand types like this? Not only stand them, but worship them. What a slavish spirit! Don't you think so? It's clear. That's it. I want it. Damn that cursed. It's clear. Oh, yes, I understand. But in fact, these were rulers stronger than the crowned ones. Why were they not isolated and exterminated in our state? Oh, yes, in our state, I began. Suddenly she laughed. I saw the laughter in her eyes. I saw the resounding, sharp curve of that laughter, flexible, tense like a whip. I remember my whole body shivered. I thought of grasping her, and I don't know what. I had to do something, mattered little what. Automatically, I looked at my golden badge, glanced at my watch, 10 minutes to 17. Don't you think it's time to go? I said as polite. Don't don't you think it is time to go? I said, as polite a tone as possible. And if I should ask you to stay here with me, what? You realize what you are saying? In 10 minutes, I must be in the auditorium, and all the numbers must take the prescribed course in art and science, and I, 330, with my voice. And all the numbers must take the prescribed courses in art and science, said I 330 with my voice. Then she lifted the curtain, opened her eyes. Through the dark windows the fire was blazing. I have a physician in the medical bureau. He is registered to me. If I ask him, he will give you a certificate declaring that you are ill. All right? Understood. At last I understood where this game was leading. Ah, so, but you know that every honest number, as a matter of course, must immediately go to the office of the guardians, and as a matter of not of course, sharp smile bite, I am very curious to know, will you or will you not go to the guardians? Are you going to remain here? I grasped the knob of the door. It was a brass knob, a cold brass knob, and I heard, cold like brass, her voice. Just a minute, may I? She went to the telephone, called a number. I was so upset it escaped me, and spoke loudly. I shall be waiting for you in the ancient house. Yes, yes, alone. I turned the cold brass knob. May I take the arrow? Oh, yes, certainly, please. In the sunshine at the gate, the old woman was dozing like a plant. Again, I was surprised to see her grown together, mouth open, and to hear her say, and your lady, did she remain alone? Alone. The mouth of the old woman grew together again. She shook her head. Apparently, even her weakening brain understood the stupidity and the danger of the behavior of that woman. At 17 o'clock exactly, I was at the lecture. There I suddenly realized that I did not tell the whole truth to the woman. I-330 was not there alone now. Possibly this fact that I involuntarily told the old woman a lie was torturing me now and distracting my attention. Yes, not alone. That was the point. After 21:30 o'clock, I had a free hour. I could therefore have gone to the office of the Guardians to make my report, but after that stupid adventure, I was so tired. Besides, the law provides 2 days. I shall have time tomorrow. I have another 24 hours.